Hi guys, welcome to my new channel. Today I'm going to show you how to edit this picture into this picture by using Photoshop and Lightroom. So we're gonna do some skin retouching, some dodging and burning, and of course a color grade. So without any further ado, let's get started. So as you can see, I opened up the picture in Lightroom. The first thing I always do is try to apply the auto settings for the exposure, because Lightroom most of the time does a pretty good job at bringing the exposure at the right level, and then perhaps I can do some further tweaking. So as I can see right now, I like to bring down those shadows a little bit because they're a little bit too bright, but actually it looks pretty good already right now. So what I like to do then is bring up the curve tool and then apply a small S curve so you can bring up those highlights a little bit and then darken those shadows. So you can see it brings up a little bit more contrast and bring a little bit of fade in there, and also apply in the middle, in the midtones, also a small lift. So okay, after you have done this, I suggest opening it up in Photoshop. So let's do this. Alright, so I've opened up the image in Photoshop. What I do next is actually, let's first look at the image up close and see if there are any blemishes or imperfections on the skin that you'd like to retouch. So for example, over here you see a small blemish, and you can put it away like so. But actually for the rest of the image, it all looks pretty good right now. Perhaps over here, a small blemish. Increase the brush size, like so. And also that darker line right under the nose, you can also remove it like so. Don't worry guys if the color is not perfect right now. Okay, so if you have done that, perhaps over here, so if you have done that, let's go to the next step. So what I always do then is I rename the layers. So this is the original. I copy the layers. I rename this layer low frequency. And I rename this layer high frequency. I select the low frequency layer, and I also apply a filter, a blur, Gaussian blur, and I select it to be about 7 pixels. Never more than 10, between 5 and 7 pixels is perfect. Click OK, select the upper layer again, make it visible, and then go to Image, Apply Image, select the low frequency layer, then select Subtract, and then also see that these parameters or these adjustment settings are really those settings, because it's really important. And afterwards click OK, and you'll see that it created a new layer with the textures of the photo. So what we're gonna do then right now is select the blend mode into linear light, and you'll see that the picture right now is actually the same as before. But what we have done right now is actually we split the layer into two separate layers. So one with the textures and one with the colors. And what we can do right now is start blending the skin so that the skin looks more smooth. So we'll select the lower layer, select the lasso tool, and then zoom in. And then you can start selecting the skin where you would like it to be a little bit more soft. So like so. You go to filter again, to blur, and then Gaussian blur. And then apply a Gaussian blur like so until you think it's about good. I don't like to apply too much because then it also darkens the color. So I'm gonna speed up this process because it can take a while and it's not that interesting. So okay, I adjusted the skin retouching by separating the layers, and what I do next is always merge the layers, like so. And then we're gonna apply a simple dodging and burning. So how are we going to do this effect? By creating a new curves layer on top and brightening the midtones. Press Command I to invert the mask, and then call this layer dodge. Create a new layer, also a new curves layer, and then bring those midtones a little bit darker. Also press Command I and call this name and call this layer burn, like so. And then you can zoom in to the image again. Sorry. So, and then you can zoom into the image again, use your brush tool and use a soft brush. I like to put my flow around 20% and my opacity also around 20%, and then increase the brush size. And then start painting on where you think that the light is hitting the face. So over here you can see that there are some high tones over here, and you can just start painting a little bit more light onto that face. So it brightens up that part of the face. Also over here, and then decrease the brush size and then start painting on the nose. Also, I'm going to speed up the process again. And then we'll do the same thing for the burning. So we're gonna darken the shadows a little bit so it brings up the contrast in the image. Now you can see the before and the after. And over here also you can see the before and the after. What I always do is apply the luminosity mask for the blend modes for these layers, because then you can also, because otherwise you will also increase the saturation. So this way you will have less saturated images and the skin will look softer. So yeah. So then we will come and select those two layers and then group them into a new group, and we'll call this dodging and burning. So now we have done the skin, and you can see there's a big difference already. So if we deselect the dodging and burning tool and then the low frequency separation, if we select a high frequency, low frequency separation layer, you can see there's already a major difference over there. And then if you also show the dodging and burning, you can see that the difference is amazing. So next we'll go to the eyes. That's also a really important part of the face because it can brighten up the picture, and you need to draw attention to the eyes. So what I always try to do is zoom into the eyes and then try to bring up the contrast in the eyes. So as you can see over here, the eyes are a little bit dark and yellowish, or maybe even perhaps a little bit reddish, and we're gonna desaturate the white of the eyes but by using a hue saturation mask and bringing down the hue and the saturation for this. So as you can see, also bring up the whites perhaps a little bit, and then press Command I, use your brush, make it small. It can be a hard brush if you like, and then zoom in and then try to paint away where you think, oh, perhaps a little bit softer, like so, and then start painting away where you think that the eye should be a little bit more white. If you zoom out, you can see that the eyes really pop out a lot more than before, but still it's not really perfect, so I like to decrease the opacity of the layer until it's a little bit more soft into the image. So like you can see, if you put it all the way out, it's a little bit too blue, but if you decrease it a little bit to around 40% or 46%, you'll see that it's a lot more natural. So okay, we've brightened up the whites of the eyes, we've done the skin, but still the image isn't compelling enough. So what I like to do is create some extra catch lights in the eyes. So the catch light is actually the light reflecting into our eyes, and as you can see, it's represented by the whites over here in the eyes, and also a little bit over here in the glosses. So what I like to do is create a new layer, then press D for the default colors, then press X, and then select a hard brush, use 100% opacity and 100% flow, zoom in into the eyes like so, make your brush small enough, and start painting on every place where you can see whites of the catch lights, like so. Even, yeah, you can even try to make a little bit more where you like the catch lights to be, like so. Don't be afraid if it's not 100%, like that it looks like this. Oops, right? That's normal. And like so. Over here you can do a little bit softer, and perhaps even with a soft brush. And perhaps like so. Like so. Okay, then we're gonna double click on that layer and then select the underlying layer, and we're gonna select the this button over here, press Option, and that way you can fade in those catch lights into the image. And then you have to play around a little bit until you think it's 100% like you want it. Like so. Can be a little bit harder. I like it that way. So okay, we've made the catch lines, we've done the eyes a little bit, also we've done a lot of the skin already. But what I like to do now is brighten up the eyes even more. And how do we do that? Again, by applying a new layer, a curves layer, like so, and then selecting the midtones again, increasing them, pressing Command I to invert the mask, selecting your brush tool, make it low opacity, low filter, zooming into the eyes, make your brush smaller, and then on the opposite sides of the catch lights, you'll just dab a little bit, just like so, and brighten up the iris, because the catch lights are actually going to reflect into the eyes, and they are going to make those eyes pop out even more. So just dab like so. A little bit harder brush. And you can also try to increase this effect, pull some strands like so. But it's a little bit of a personal preference. And if you zoom out, you'll see that those eyes will really start popping like so. So again, also select the luminosity mask, or perhaps, yeah, you can keep it normal, depends on what you like most. And then also decrease the opacity, because if you put on too much of the opacity, it will look too fake. So you just have to put a little bit of opacity in it, or perhaps at 70%, that's how I like it most. So right now the image is starting to look really good. What we can still do is perhaps color her lips a little bit. So what I like to do then is select the pen tool and trace her lips all the way. So make it a selection, and afterwards go to the layer layer tools, and then select Use Saturation. Select the red if you can, and now press the plus tool, and you can even select a little bit more of the lips. Go to the saturation, and then just increase the saturation a little bit. Perhaps make them a little bit darker. If you zoom out, you have a little bit of a better view. But like so. Don't make it too hard, because if you make it too hard, you'll see that it's starting to look fake. So okay, that seems about right. Right now the image looks almost 100% perfect. The only thing that I'm not 100% sure about is the last thing, is her arm is a little bit too bright. So what I can do right now is select it with this selection tool, quick select it like so. It doesn't have to be that perfect, but you'll see. Then press the option button to deselect this part. It's not doing that much of a good job, but it doesn't really matter also. But then select again a hue saturation adjustment layer, and then just bring up the saturation a little bit and bring down that brightness. Perhaps a little bit less, but like so. Like so. Then click and save, and let's hop back into Lightroom. So we're back into Lightroom again, guys, and as you can see, the image is looking already a lot different than before. So what we can do right now is again play with the exposure settings. So I like to brighten it up a lot more, bring up a little bit more heat in the temperature that way. And then let's start playing with the curves tool again. So we're gonna bring up those highlights again a lot and bring down those shadows even more. Bring down those highlights a little bit more again. Okay, we're gonna restart. So we're gonna go to the curves tool, And we're gonna increase the highlights a little bit, decrease those shadows again, and then decrease the midtones a little bit. Bring up the fade tool a little bit. It has to be just, it's a little bit of a personal preference also. Perhaps I'm gonna decrease the exposure a little bit again. Bring up the temperature a little bit more. Decrease the contrast like so a little bit. Bring down those highlights. Bring up the shadows even more. Bring the whites a little bit to make the eyes pop even better. Decrease the blacks. Increase the texture to about 12 and then decrease the clarity by 20. That way you get a softer image, but yeah, some of the details remain. Also, what I like to do next is increase the vibrance by like 15 and then decrease the saturation. So you'll get more colors in your midtones and then it won't be too much of a saturated image though. So we're almost done, guys. What I like to do then is apply a little bit of vignettes. And then perhaps you can even adjust some of the colors over here even more. So I like to lower the blues a little bit and then even lower those reds a little bit. Not too much, just small bits. So okay, the image is looking great. So let's see the before and the after again. So this is the after and this is the before. So I hope you guys enjoyed. So just leave a comment down below, and if you haven't already, just click the subscribe button down below and leave a comment in the comment section, and see you next time, guys.